Again, BMW gave us a lot of money if we put their car in the movie. So we did.
We use a Tag Heuer big clock, and I put that little Tag logo there, and it saved me $75,000.
You know, movie producers used to look to investors when they were trying to get a movie off the ground, but now they look to advertisers too. Pampers paid $50,000 to appear in Three Men and a Baby, Huggies $100,000 for Baby Boom, Cuervo Gold $150,000 for Tequila Sunrise, Exxon $300,000 for Days of Thunder, and Lark Cigarettes $350,000 for License to Kill. You know, this can get very competitive. Forbes and Fortune were duking it out with each other over which of the magazines was going to appear in Wall Street.
Well, it's in the Bible.
Since it is now so expensive to promote a movie, tremendously costly, the producers are often looking for ways to get some money back and some promotions as well. This can be a matter of putting a product in the background of a scene. It can be a matter of actually writing dialogue into a script.
What is it with single men and V8 juice?
You do not realize that Taco Bell was the only restaurant to survive the franchise wars.
All I want is a Pepsi.
Or it can involve what I like to call the plug deluxe, which is a shot of the star actually using and enjoying the product, which is, I suppose, worth its weight in gold to the advertiser. Product placement, to put it very simply, is a practice that turns movies into outright commercials.
It's Miller time!
There's the moment in Good Will Hunting where we see Matt Damon and Ben Affleck carrying their Dunkin' Donuts tumblers to the car, which is fine. Dunkin' Donuts is a Boston institution, but the fact that they hold the tumblers so that those logos are faced directly into the camera, that makes it a plug and therefore not realistic. You've got a very good thriller called Internal Affairs. But all of a sudden, there are these logos staring at me like a couple of big eyes. And at that point, the movie just kind of stops for a second. Same thing happens in Summer of Sam. You've got all these guys sitting around in a diner drinking their Pepsis, and Spike Lee, the director of many a TV commercial, has the logos facing the camera. And there again, suddenly, that's what we see, that's what we notice. It upstages everybody. There's a particularly rich example of concentrated placement from the mid-'80s when Columbia Pictures was purchased by Coca-Cola. And they started writing whole scenes into movies that were about Coke. For example, there's the John Candy comedy, Who's Harry Crumb?
Sherry? No fruit, thank you.
Really pointless, but striking as an example of utterly gratuitous product placement.
Coke? No, thank you. Mix them together, get a cherry Coke.
We see the Cola Wars coming to the movies in a film called Missing, which is produced by Columbia, which was owned by Coca-Cola. Missing was a film about an American student who was murdered, and in the film, we see repeatedly images of Pepsi and the Pepsi logo associated with the Pinochet regime and the soldiers and the bad guys, and Coca-Cola associated with the Americans, the good guys.
A la vida.
Olive.
To life.
We all know through the strategic placement of products that advertisers colonize space, all kinds of space. But we don't necessarily think about the way in which advertisers colonize time. And by time, I mean history, our notions of the past, our notions of the future, so that we see a product in a film that's allegedly about the 1950s, and it gives that product an inevitability, as if it was always there.
I guess I'll have a salad and an Evian water.
Or we see the same product in the future, in a futuristic movie, as if it's always going to be there.
There is a kind of tradition of mocking product placement.
Contractor, no. I will not bow to any sponsor.
Interestingly enough, none of the advertisers are taking offense. Nobody's really hurt by this satire. It's toothless satire.
You know, even in a film like The Truman Show, which has various spoof placements put throughout the film.
Why don't you let me fix you some of this new Mococo drink? All natural cocoa beans from the upper slopes of Mountain Nicaragua, no artificial sweeteners.
What the hell are you talking about?
They kind of serve as a smokescreen because there actually is a paid placement in the film for a Ford Taurus. And so these spoof placements kind of take away from people's awareness that there are real placements in the film.
The defenders of the practice say over and over and over again that it's more realistic to have products placed in the frame than not. There's a very big difference between a world of products that looks like the world we live in and the world of products that's based on placement. Placement is very, very unrealistic because it is a way for the products to look as glamorous, as heavenly as they do in a TV commercial. And that's not the way life is. A movie like Armageddon, for example, has a love scene between Liv Tyler and Ben Affleck in which the setting sun sort of shares the frame with this lustrous new BMW. And we also see him cutely walking animal crackers over her luscious body. Well, that's something you see in advertising all the time, is the sexual allure gets kind of deflected onto this thing you eat or drink. That's a pure advertising moment because it's so reductive.
What advertising suggests is that products, commodities, are the agents of love, happiness, success.
Big or small, you give your all. Moms like you choose Jim.
Now, when the movies start taking over this function, advertising and products move to center stage in these very powerful narratives. An early example of this is Mac and Me, in which the space aliens are revived by Coke. A more recent example is Bowfinger, that ends with FedEx delivering the contract of a lifetime to Steve Martin's character. And it's not just scenes. Products now actually provide the emotional core of films. In At First Sight, for example, about the life of a blind man, the first thing he sees is a can of Coke.
It's a can.
This kind of corporate investment is illustrated really well in a film like Happy Gilmore, in which Subway actually becomes the agent, the protector, the provider who helps the Adam Sandler character save his grandmother's house.
Talk about a hole-in-one.
Subway sandwiches will drive away your hunger.
That commercial put us up to $275,000. Let's go get your house back.
You can see how this is changing the way movies are conceived by looking at films from different time periods.
You've Got Mail is at the end of a long tradition of really great movies from Hollywood. A lot of the Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn comedies, movies like The Awful Truth, His Girl Friday. They're genuinely witty, and they're about something. You know, they're about a kind of romantic tug-of-war. You've Got Mail is a different thing. It takes that general situation, it feeds it into this advertising mill. All that You've Got Mail is really about is AOL.com and Starbucks.
The whole purpose of places like Starbucks is for people with no decision-making ability whatsoever to make 6 decisions just to buy 1 cup of coffee. Short, tall, light, dark, calf, decaf, low-fat, non-fat.
The movie, in other words, is not really about this love affair. It's about this cool service and its leading corporate provider. Imagine now, think ahead and try to picture yourself, say, 40 years from now, when maybe there is no more Starbucks and AOL has been long since replaced by some other service. Imagine what you'd make of a movie like this. It'll be like some artifact from a distant era. I mean, who cares, you know? If the drama, if the dialogue, if the pacing, if these things aren't enough, then there's nothing there.